up here in Mother Armenia. The lighting's not great on that side, so I can only get her backside for now. No disrespect, Mother Armenia. But out there is the modern Turkey-Armenia border, which is a real thing. We're not going to get into that yet because we're in the time of the 1400s ending in the, just in my mind, just purely evil Timur the Lame. I don't know, the Mongols were crazy, but they seemed like they had a goal in mind. I don't know what Timur the Lame is. Muslim? He was doing all this awful stuff. I don't know. I'm gonna have to research him more, but he just seemed crazy. So the city, though, was built in 1975. So the city down here, what we've been talking about, there's a beautiful mountain, Argagat. I'm terrible at pronouncing it. I'm sorry for butchering the names. No disrespect to Armenians. I know you don't like to be disrespected. Yeah, there's where we were just hanging out. So there's the center city park. Yeah, so all that stuff that just went down, that's center Kumairi. But they say that ancient Persian, some of the ancient areas are more over here, maybe over there. I don't know for sure, man. But remember, not Turkic tribes were all formulated in the region, including one called the Ottomans. They weren't near here, but kind of in Anatolia, down that way. But one of the many Turkic tribes, a lot of people get that confused, ran this area after Timur the Lame vacated, and actually it was a time for peace. There's Mother Armenia up there, man. She's standing proud for all her people. It was actually a time of peace for the city in the region for the first time in a long time. They're Muslims, so they taxed the Christians, but still, the city got its G, which it still carries to this day for some interesting reason. And it was repopulated. Look at that mountain. So everybody was killed by Timur's forces. So one thing I forgot to mention. In the Mongol times, let's go back a little bit. In the Mongol times, there was an Armenian legion. No. An Armenian force. Yeah, we'll call it a legion. I don't know what it's called. This is what a Mongol Khan division. There we go. An Armenian division. Whoa, that sounds crazy. In the Mongol army, which kind of cool. There were some of their fiercest fighting. I think this happened several times. Even in the ancient Persian times, they had an Armenian division that fought against the 3,000. The Romans definitely had an Armenian division. In the Roman Empire, some of the biggest eras of the Roman Empire, they had an Armenian, 20,000, 50,000 soldiers. Armenians probably came from over here, and went all the way and visited Rome. Powerful generals or important people. And the Byzantines, for sure, also had Armenian soldiers. They've always been tough. It's just been a strategically crazy area. People coming from that way, coming from the south, coming not so much from the north because of those Caucasus Mountains, but actually that's coming from that way, especially. Always been sorry for the filming. All right, let's get to our story. So we're getting into the modern era. The Middle Ages is just kind of ending. And for now, the city's in Turkic hands, but a peaceful existence. And Armenians were moved back here to resettle and get the city going again. All right, let me get my notes. Start telling the story again. Oh, Gyumri, there it is down there. Mother Armenia, standing strong. Yeah. So, 1501, there was another invasion from the east over there by the Persians again. Now, Islamic Persians. What is this? The third or 5th time Persians invaded the city and region. What in the world? It was either Persians or Turkic or Mongol, all just from this direction. Just Roman. They never gave them a break, man. They just kept coming in from each direction all throughout these histories. Crazy. All right, so 1501, the Muslim Safavid Persian dynasty conquered the region and the city, led personally by the Shah Ismail I himself. Mother Armenia was not happy with that up there. The ruling dynasty was of Kurdish origin. Ooh, that's interesting. So by this time, we all know a pretty powerful entity was coming about called the Ottoman Empire, which kind of recently just snuffed out the Byzantines and Eastern Romans right before this happened. So they were gaining all kinds of territory over that way, but here was kind of the border of Persia and the Ottomans. Once again, you know, there must have been some mosques built, Muslims and Persians living in the city for centuries, but again, there's zero evidence of this because Armenians claim this is their home and it's a Christian land, which, you know, is what it is. And all of these wars and ravaging and earthquakes we're going to get into probably destroyed lots of stuff. Probably picked apart mosques and built stuff with them. Who knows? But, you know, it was in Iranian hands for centuries. It was the border of the Ottoman Turkish Empire and the Iranian Safavid Empire. Whoa, right there. Same kind of border. It's pretty crazy. What do you think about that? Mother Armenia caught in the middle of the crossroads again, east and west. Yeah, it's weird though, because the Turkish now, who you know, took over pretty much all the Turkic tribes and brought them into the Ottomans. They were over there. They took over Roman land, which was Armenian land, and it's very complicated. Whose land is whose land? It's a lot of people die and suffer for this question, man. I'm not the expert. I come from America, who's nobody's land except for the Native Americans. But there's all kinds of claims to the land now. Pretty much, in some ways, the exact same situation, but not as ancient. All this intense stuff drives you to drink. All right, what happened next? But again, blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay. So I couldn't really find any information of the city from the 15th, 16th, and 1700s. Except for that some powers shifted. You know, there was part of the Yerevan Khanate, which was stationed in Yerevan, which is now the capital of Armenia. What else happened? Yeah, the Yerevan Khanate ruled the kingdom of Armenia from Yerevan. Then in 1736, the Afasharid Iranian Turkmen dynasty empire ruled from far off North Khorasan in northeast Iran. Then in 1789, the Qajar Turkic Iranian ruling dynasty of Iran started. What in the world? It was just like Europe. All these takeovers and ruling families and different ethnicities ruling things, and just this city was just caught in the middle of it. All right, so now we get into the Russians coming into this area, which they've been for a long time, since 1804. So we're going to talk about this at a fortress they built. All right, Mother Armenia, get a shot over here. All right, so 1804, Privyet, coming over the Caucasus Mountains area. 1804, the powerful Russian Empire first starts getting involved in the city here of Alexandarpol, Leninkan, Gyumri, but it's not that just yet. But this is the beginning of the start of the Iran times and the Russian connected time, which goes back farther than anyone realizes. 1804. All right, we're gonna talk about this at this fortress right here. All right, little interlude here. It said there was one fortress built before the 1828-29 war with the Turkish Ottomans. I think that's it. There's a Russian flag still flying from it. That was the original one, maybe. And this was a newer one, 1830 to 1840. So fortress number 2. I wish I could get all my stories straight, bro, but I know one thing is I never quite been on a border like this before. That's 200 years of tension. 200 years! Shit. Alright, that was weird. This is forever apart. Probably seemed to the locals an Iranian led, which Armenia actually, despite all their troubles with Muslims, they're actually pretty friendly with Iran, which is down that way ways. Which I think is interesting because they're, I don't want to say this wrong, but they're one sect of Islam that's pretty much at civil war and hates forever the other sect of Islam, which most people are, but Armenia was like, join friends with one side, our enemy of our enemies, our friend, something like that. But still good relations with, Iran and Iranians with Armenia to this day, which is interesting. I think it's because of that 15, 16, 1700s. All right, but we're getting into another interesting relationship, the relationship with Russia. So, yeah, this isn't filming very well here, but this is the Black Fortress. It's hard to see. It's a big circular fortress in town. Okay, so the Russian Empire came down here from over there, pretty much, from the Caucasus Mountains. Caucasus Mountains passes. The Russian Empire have been expanding all the way out to Alaska, across Siberia. So they came over to this area to help out, probably capture the Armenians as part of their empire, which that's how empire works. They're another Christian kingdom. A Christian people. They're not Orthodox Christian like the Russians, but they've been ruled and messed with by Muslims forever, and the Russian Empire probably thought they could get a nice addition to their empire. And I don't know, I'm just rambling on here. I'm just a dumb American. I don't know exactly what happened. I'm just talking shit. So in 1804, though, to 1813, Russia and Persia went to war. The Russo-Persian Wars. The city was massively overhauled and designed during this time as the Russian Empire. Wow, the Russian Empire came in and changed the city to kind of how it looks today. That would be kind of cool. But let's look at the city that I'm talking about here, which I spent a lot of time in the center city. So early 1800s, after the Russo-Persian Wars, is when this city pretty much took shape to what it is today. And eventually they needed a defensive piece here, but we're not getting into that yet. All right, well, thousands of years of history probably were demolished. Nearby black stone like this was mined in the massive hall of Gyumri, and it was one of the Russian Empire's Trans-Caucasus most developed cities. The Russians fought the Ottomans again, also in the Russo-Turkic Wars, and 10,000 or more Armenians fleeing cities like Kars, Erzurum, and more migrated into the city, growing the population. Which I'm guessing most people around Gyumri are descended from those times. I just guess. It's a lot of people, 10,000. It was an Armenian city, almost completely, once again, with a Russian minority. Russian poets and dignitaries frequently visited the city. Russian was a second language of the city that it is to this day. From the early 1800s, the Russians built a fortress right here. The Black Fortress that stands to this day in the 1830s, 40s Russo-Turkish War. After the 1828 and 29, man, I need to get my dates right. Modern history really isn't my thing. What is this place? Well, I know what it is. It's the Black Fortress, built in the 1830s and 40s and 20s, I think. There might have been another Russian fortress, but this is the one that's here today to have a buffer between them and the Ottomans, which by now we're getting pretty weak. They lost all their European territory. They lost their Middle Eastern territory. They really just had Anatolia. But throughout this time, the Turkish-Armenian relations bad, man. They just had lots of tension. Many Armenians died in purges, different horrible things, which were leading up to one of the most awful things that happened. But throughout the 1800s, the city here, the Russo-Turco Wars, a lot of Russians died too, fighting for the city and these lands. They have a grave site here near a church that was built. Let's take a look at it now. After I say this, that was built 1840s, but it houses the Russian officers died for the Russo-Turco Wars. A big hill, just like a grave for all of them, which is really intense. I can't believe I'm inside the Black Fortress right now. This is really dope. It's just you gotta feel the energy when you come to a place like this. When I was talking about that Timur the Lame stuff too, I felt an energy. I don't know, is it just me? Happened to me all the way back when I was a kid in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, when I went to the battle site. I don't know, man. Maybe it's just, I don't know. I think there's something to that. It's like there's a pain that stays with the place, or power. But this was like a home operating base in the battle for Kars, where thousands of Armenians and Russians died in those battles. The Ottomans technically won. But we're getting now still in the 1830s. After those wars slowed down into 1837, the city of Alexandarpol, which is one of its classic names. The city must have still been going by Gyumri, which is strange. You don't hear about that too often. All right, that was cool. All right, so from Moscow, Bareftes. From Moscow. Got some cannons here. These were 1830s style recreations, but 1830s style. Best you had. Muster with maybe a little bit bigger, but it's all good, man. Went from this fortress, charging out down that way in horseback, and man, fucking over and over and over, bringing soldiers back, and crazy, man. Historia, yeah. The world we're a part of here.
Gyumri, this is my life.
Gyumri, this is my life. Yes, I like that. Have a good day. Hajo Gotun. Gyumri, this is my life. Hard-working guy, nice guy, still smiling. All right, let's loop around the Black Fortress here and tell how this happened. So, I may have got the dates wrong. I'll fix it up a little bit. When this was exactly built, there might have been another Russian fortress that's long gone. Man, look at that out there, though. Just imagine, it's just still contentious border. Ever since the 1800s. What in the world? What in the world? What do you think about that, Mother Armenia? 200 years of tension. You like that? It makes you happy? I don't know. It doesn't make me very happy. I feel like there's something that needs to be hashed out somehow. I don't know how, but Russia has had Armenia's back, and Russia has Armenia's back to this day. You know, through the USSR times, and you know, obviously this was a strict border. There's communism in the evil capitalist West over there. That was serious, but we're not going to get into that just yet. But all throughout the Russian Empire times too, and then now through Armenia's beef with Turkey because of their issues and killing Armenians and supporting Azerbaijan and don't sniper rifle me up here or something. I'm just talking shit, man. I'm actually not talking shit. I'm just talking freedom of speech. Can't say anything bad about that, man. Really. Throughout a lot of these times, couldn't have it. So I'm just here at this Russian fortress. Freedom of speech. You can really see the circular shape of the Black Fortress like this. They are guarding this direction. Gun turrets and cannons coming out of there probably. The city of Alexandarpol was behind it. It's up here on the hill guarding the city. You know, that might have been the other Russian fortress actually. All right, we're out here in this abandoned area. And this church is a Russian Orthodox church. Hey, there's a boy right there. Badavtez! Привет! Okay, so this church was built in the 1800s, Russian Orthodox church. Let's talk about the city in this time. So, 1837, Alexandarpol, Tsar of the Russian Empire. Tsar Nicholas I changed the name of the city to honor his wife, the Princess of Prussia, which is basically now Germany. The Princess of Prussia, her name was Charlotte, but after converting to Orthodox Christianity, like that abandoned church back there, she changed her name to Alexandra. So, hence the name Alexandarpol. Pol coming from the Greek meaning of polis, which means city. Like metropolis, another word like that. Okay, so I saw that big green bug, that was crazy. All right, the city experienced rapid growth, including this area, which, was destroyed by the earthquake, I think, and kind of abandoned. But the city experienced rapid growth into the mid 1800s and took the shape of kind of what it looks like now, which we saw in other parts of the video. It was an important outpost of the Imperial Russian Army, whose base was around here. Which mostly, the Russian military has remained in this area through the USSR times and through the Russian Federation times to this day, since the 1800s. But we're not to them just yet, the Russians. So there was another Russo-Turkish war. Turkey's, the Ottomans. It's right out that way. There was another Russo-Turkish war in 1877, 1878, and Alexandarpol was the main base for that war. And let's go to their fortress again really quick. Okay, so, even more Russians from all over the Russian Empire, probably from Siberia, Kazakhstan, man, even a lot native Alaskans maybe could have been in that war, and many Armenians died in the conflict. Around 200 Russian soldiers from the 1820s and the 1870s war are buried on a hill. Actually, they're not just soldiers, they're colonels and what's the word for it? I'm gonna put the word here. I am an expert on that, but I can't think of the word right now. Anyway, they were leaders, like weren't just regular soldiers. They were like high up and not generals, but battalion leaders, something like that. Okay, anyways, let's go look at the church now. It's was built in 1879. St. Michael, or once was St. Nikolai the Wonder Worker Russian Orthodox Church. This is the other Russian Orthodox church in town, no longer in use. We just looked inside, which was really cool. But yeah, let's look at that other church now. This church was built in 1880 here, Russian Orthodox, during the Russian Empire, but what is also here is the Hill of Honor. So there's 155 Russian soldiers and commanders that are buried here that died in two separate battles, the 1855 and the 1878 and 79 battle for the city of Kars, ancient city Kars that is now located in Turkey. So that was against the Ottoman Empire, the Russian-Turco Wars. That's intense. Wow. Well, rest in peace to them, man. All people who die of war, you know, even the aggressors, it's sad to me no matter what. It's crazy. 155 poor guys far from their homeland of Russia, fighting for the Armenian people, are buried here. I'm super lucky, and my family, well, I never was a soldier of any type, never drafted. No one in my family kind of was either. My grandparents kind of, in the World War II, my two grandpas, but not really. My ancient ancestor was a medic in the Austrian-Hungary Empire in 1840s wars. That's a little different. But that brings me to the time frame. So 1840s is exactly when there was war on American soil in the Mexican-American War. That was the last time anyone from California seen war. And 1860s in America as a whole, in the US Civil War. You know, 9/11 is one thing and a bunch of other stuff happened, and you know, internal terrorists and all this crazy stuff, but that's different, man. So I you know, my eyes haven't seen things. I talk about all this history and all this stuff, and I kind of a little bit insensitive sometimes. I know talking about war, but you know, it's a part of the human existence. I'm very, very, very lucky that I never personally have experienced it in a place where I am, especially as a kid growing up. Imagine having to deal with that as a kid. Change your whole life or end your life. There's another gravestone there, 1893 to 1916. Someone young, Armenian maybe. Can't see it. There we go. War is literal hell. The stuff that we pray not to go to, and it's ongoing now to this day, I think. Rest in peace to the dead. Whatever religion anyone has been in all of history has respected and prayed in some kind of way for their dead. Do svidaniya. Peace. Alright, this is the Iron Fountain of Gyumri, built in 1982. Soviet architecture, Soviet modernist architecture. It looks strange out here for a reason, because it is the only thing in this whole area that survived the massive 1988 earthquake. That was devastated the city. It looks like over there, if you could zoom in, you can see maybe some of the campus buildings. So what this was right here was Gyumri Polytechnic University. It was completely level, except for this fountain, which was the centerpiece of the university. It must have been bustling with young people, hopeful for the future. Just think about if you went to this university at some point in your life, whenever it was built, 60s, whatever, your place that you went to university is completely gone. Very sad. Earthquake. Earthquake was devastating for the city. We'll talk more about some specifics about that somewhere else. But this university was definitely hit exceptionally hard. all over Gyumri, we found rubble still to this day, 34 years later, 1988. And it looks like something was attached to this. This was an actual fountain. Look, those are pipes for water. Crazy. Never quite been in a place with this kind of story. Visible damage. But the iron fountain endures. 40 years later, after Gyumri. Huge mountain right there too, look at that. Still snow on top. With a cold winter here. Oh yeah, with a factory, there it is. Huge smokestack, long abandoned. Wow. Alright, so yeah, down here, the restaurant in the mine, the old mine, which is crazy. We're gonna watch the guy do it. Here we go. Photo. Okay, okay. They wanted me to see this. Yeah. All right. Siberian sturgeon, an interesting ancient species. Whoa, that's kind of a big one. Yeah. All right. Hello. Whoa. Okay. That's a small one. Oh man. All right. Hello. Thank you for sacrificing your life. Wow, that's an interesting looking thing. So, this is how things work. Boom! That's it. Hajo Gotun. Yep. Well, you know, that's where food comes from, ladies and gentlemen. In the USA, we never see that kind of thing. Your friend is gone. Thank you for sacrificing your life. Amazing creature. It was farmed anyways, you know, so, and there you go. All right, now, ooh. All right, scaling it. Whoa. And gutting it. Wow, interesting. Yeah, these fish are an ancient species from a long time ago. Wow, all right. This is what you do. You know, old people in the history used to do this kind of thing all the time. Yep, gut it, get its guts out. So yeah, this fish was alive many millions of years ago, and this is as fresh as it gets. This is where caviar comes from, the best caviar, actually. All right, gut it. There you go. Nice, quickly done, very nice, sir. Schnor Hagelutun, you're Jangotun, you're good at that. Yeah, he's got practice. All right, get all the schmutz out, it looks like, from the... Thanks. From the... I used to work in a fish market in New York City, Manhattan, so I've seen this kind of thing before. I don't think they had sturgeon, that's for sure. Yeah, so this is gonna get barbecued for us. Ooh, take out the backbone, the vertebrate animal. Oh, still wiggling a little bit. Yes, that's how that works. Wow. Well, biology 101, ladies and gentlemen. Interesting. What is that? That's like the spinal cord. Whoa. All right, clean it out, and there we go. Woo, beautiful. Whoa, oh, yeah, it still has a little life to it, wiggling around. All right, very nicely done, my friend. Yes, Schnor Hagelutun. Wow, awesome. Okay. Yeah. That barbecue sturgeon is one of the greatest things. Man, you know, fish, it definitely felt that back. You know, actually, quick blow to the head. That's not too bad, actually. That would take down, crush your skull. But sentient beings, man, all animals, all meat, all fish. It's part of how humans existed forever. Fishing, you know, it's just part of this world. And farming fish like this is actually good. Look, they're replenishing the water, and they're growing the fish and eggs, and from the eggs and reproducing them. And over here is the trout that's probably kind of endangered. Actually, both these fish are probably endangered a little bit in the wild. So it's good to farm them instead of taking them from the wild. I'll look up the history of the sturgeon in a second. It's a fascinating fish. They also have them in America, in Oregon, the Columbia River. There's a species of sturgeon can get really huge. Like, I don't know, almost half of this tank sturgeon can get. They're massive creatures. All right, I gotta go now. I hope you enjoyed that. If you're a little squeamish, I don't care. That's where food comes from, man. You gotta respect the living beings, just like this dog over here. It's the same kind of deal. It's an animal. Humans, it's emotional, I know. We're animals, horses, frogs, lizards, birds, insects, other mammals. Things have been eating things forever. All right. Siberian sturgeon. This is rare to get.
You need to send me this picture.
This is. You just cursed on video. It's really expensive to get this in the U.S. They farm it here on site, right over there, so that's sustainable and doesn't affect the species. It's an ancient species of fish, one of the oldest kinds of fish. They've lasted through the time of the dinosaurs, unchanged almost, prehistoric style fish. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to talk about these flags in a second, but we're going to talk about Gyumri, Leninkan in the SSR. And this, someone told me, little glitch there. This, someone told me, is the USSR's oldest walking street. That's super interesting. All right, let's talk about these flags. So, right now, 2022, this is interesting. You're not going to see this many places in the world. We got USA right there, EU, and we got Russia, the Russian Federation, the Armenian Apostolic Church, and the Armenian flag all together. And I think France over there, also French. Cool, on the SSR street. All right, so we're gonna talk about Leninkan right now. And this street was built 1800s. 1926 though saw another bad earthquake in the city of Leninkan. Everyone thinks about the 1988 earthquake, but there was also one in 1926. So that means it's like about every 60 years there's a bad earthquake. Great. So that happened in the early days of the USSR, so they had to rebuild a little bit. But the USSR had a lot of money. Their currency was silver at the time. I have a few USSR coins. Yes, Ruski SSR. That's what we're talking about. Historia. Okay. So after the 1926 earthquake, still it was rebuilt. It was a major city, Leninkan, in the Soviet Socialist Republic of Armenia. USSR was here, and they were thriving, doing their thing. The city sent soldiers to, I'm sure, okay, before we talk about that, 1930s, Joseph Stalin was the leader of the USSR. The USA wasn't really that powerful of a country yet. In some ways it was, but not really. Oh man, the only place in the world you'll see this, the USA, EU, and Russian flag all together right now in 2022. You'll never see that in the world. Okay, I want to show this street. This street is cool. That's so interesting, man. It's like the ultimate connection there. Just showing love, man, to everybody. I don't know what. Yeah, I've seen those flags since the first day I've been here, and it's made me feel comfortable to be here. Interesting. I'm sure you won't see any of those flags together in the Kremlin, Washington, D.C., any EU country, probably anywhere else in the world, man. All right, anyway, speaking of earthquake damage, you know, they're still fixing some things here, like this building, but all right. So Joseph Stalin, 1930s, you know, he was the leader of the USSR, and he's one of the most powerful people in history, and also one of the most craziest people in history. I'm sure some people from Leninkan, keep on saying it wrong. I'm sure some people from Leninkan got swept up in Joseph Stalin's psychotic purges, sadly, and, you know, disappeared forever, sent to the gulags. That kind of stuff is crazy, man. But like I said, the city marched on. All right, so in World War II, the city of Leninkan sent several soldiers to the Red Army. 1940s, Armenians were in the Red Army, Soviet Army, on the Eastern Front fighting Nazi Germany. One of the, actually the most brutal warfare fighting in all of history. I'm sure there's several people here in this city whose parents or grandparents or someone experienced that firsthand, which World War II is why we have those flags up there today. Oh shit, is that dog I don't like? Maybe. All right, anyways, I've seen a couple, here, maybe I'll show one. I've seen a couple Soviet World War II monuments in this city, which you gotta pay respect for, man. That was absolutely insane. They were, tens of thousands of people were dying almost every day in places like Stalingrad, and it was some real shit, man. Like, I'm even just thinking about it gives me shudders, man. Check out Hardcore History Ghost on the Ostfront podcast, Dan Carlin. Whew. All right, so many Armenians, local Armenians died on the Eastern Front. Soviet military installments after World War II were installed here along the Turkish border, which I've seen some of them in near little villages like my friend. Oh man, check out my video about my friend. Ooh, the lighting. Sorry about that. What if? Is that dog I don't like? I think so. Yeah, son of a bitch. Old man out here. All right, Sunday. We're on Sunday. All right, so you know the Soviet Union after World War II was a little nervous about NATO, which basically was a pact of democratic countries against to, you know, defend itself against the Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact and everything like that. But in 1950, Turkey was one of the first members to join NATO, which is interesting, within the first couple of years, which is still controversially is a member of to this day. Whoa, dogfight! Get him, get him. So the Soviet Union had to build military installments here because the border with NATO basically is right here in Leninkan. And actually this is still an issue to this day in some ways, which if any country of NATO is attacked, personally, all countries have to act, which United States, Canada, all the Western European places, UK, it's a big fucking mess, man. So these alliances. It's like we're trying to start World War I again. All these alliances, and then all of a sudden you have thousands of people dead because of some stupid king made an alliance with some stupid other thing. God damn it, man. All right, let me just finish this story. All right, the Cold War was on. Cold War was on, and it was felt here in Leninkan. I can't imagine what it was like here then. You know, not a lot of information obviously came out of the USSR, closed society, you know, not democratic, one-party system, secret police, people getting, you know, if I was filming like this, walking around Leninkan SSR, I would be I would be arrested and fucked up, probably tortured. It's some fucking horrible shit. You're in America, why are you filming these flags? And what the hell are you doing here? And all this shit. They would probably pull out my fingernails, fucking gouge one of my eyes out. It was no joke, man, the SSR. So, you know what? I'm happy to sit around and make these videos like this, because that, you know, could still happen to me, but not as much as 1950 or 60 or 70, especially the 50s and 60s. It's not gonna happen. I don't think. Ah, fuck, man. So many people suffered such crazy shit, man. It's just, Niet, watch. Film in here. Shh. All right. Anyways, I'm sure that some people live a comfortable life. You know, I've met many people in this city, Gyumri, that are age 40 and over, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years old, that obviously live, Devestated. Привет. That obviously, like that guy that obviously lived in the SSR times and they made it through it. So, you know, that's that. I'm not an expert on that. It was just a country. I'm sure it was fine for some people. So many local people obviously lived through these times, as I said. A good friend of mine told me 1 ruble could buy 6 bottles of beer, and he has fond memories of a kid as being a kid in school. What's up to my friend Jacob? Hold on, let me take out the ruble. All right, here we go. So, oops, sorry. My friend told me 1 ruble, Leninkan, 6 bottles of beer, piva. Have a good morning, excuse me. What's wrong, dog? All right, so we're talking about the SSR times. Here's the money. Some people gave this to me that, get out of here. You fucking shit. Нет. Нету. Ah! Yeah, a good, nice combination of flags up there, I'd have to say. We're all in this together, baby. One Earth. All right, so these are the SSR ruble. I'll show it a little closer, maybe in the sun. So this is the last edition, 1991. 1991, last edition. All right, so, you know, through Stalin, Khrushchev, Gorbachev, the SSR times, we're here, and that's that. Can't change history, and I'm sure, especially in the army and different things like that, there's a Kremlin, different things like that. I'm sure many local Armenians had good jobs and did interesting things. So, one of my biggest questions is, and I don't know how to ask anybody, did people, like now, but it was worse then, did people even think about the impending doom of nuclear war that was potential in Leninkan and every Soviet city. You know, it was really close in the 60s and 70s and 80s from becoming a reality. I'm sure the propaganda talked about a little bit of that, but who knows? You know, you had the hydrogen bomb and all these nuclear arsenals and everything and all this fucking crazy shit that all still exists. Who knows what the people here were told? What did they think of Americans during this time? What were they taught about the West from 1950 to 1990? Who knows, man? Who knows? But we're on the oldest Soviet walking street. I like this walking street. There's a nice restaurant here. We got the French, USA, EU, Russian, Armenian church, and the Armenian flag up there. There we go. French. Some other flags too, I'm not sure. But French, USA, EU, Russian Federation flying high right there. The Armenian Apostolic Church flag, which is interesting, and then the Armenian flag. I like that. It makes me feel very happy to be sitting here telling this story in Leninkan, named after Lenin, someone who that the Kaiser of Germany, suffering in World War II, his country, put on a train from Germany into Russia to start a revolution, which worked as a last-ditch effort to try to win World War I. And then you got a city named after him, Leninkan. 5 million statues of him. Leningrad, the Soviet Union, existed for almost 100 years. About 1920, 1917 really is the start, but it didn't come together until the 1920s, 1920, 30, 1940s. The Soviet Union really got rocked in World War II. 1950s, 1960s, 1950s, the nuclear era started and the space race. 1960s, the hydrogen bomb and the Tsar Bomba and the Americans on the moon and all the Soviet Union cosmonauts. I wonder if there was an Armenian cosmonaut. There could have been. All this technology and spying and crazy, crazy shit. The Cuban Missile Crisis. 1970s were a little bit more smoothed over. You know, Khrushchev, USSR, Cold War to the max, war in Vietnam, proxy wars, war in Afghanistan. I'm sure maybe some Armenian USSR soldiers went to Afghanistan in the 70s and 80s. I think that was probably most likely. Into, you know, the whole time with the Berlin, East Berlin, West Berlin, Checkpoint Charlie, all this craziness, people getting tortured, CIA, Kremlin, fucking crazy. All right, I'm just blabbering on. I don't want to ruin people's times out here. Then you had the 80s. Ronald Reagan. Then into the early 90s and the unforeseen collapse of the Soviet Union, which I guess ended the Cold War in a way. And Armenia came out of that as, there's a plane to Istanbul from somewhere far off reaches places. Armenia came out of that as an independent nation after the collapse of the Soviet Union, which it has been to this day. And I like it here. Gyumri, Leninkan. It's all good. Let's get to the last part of this story. The modern era. Collapse of the Soviet Union, 1991. I remember watching on the TV as a kid. I was 9 years old or 8 years old. And they were showing Moscow with a bunch of tanks rolling around, 1991, on the news. And I was a kid, you know, and my dad, he went through the whole Cold War and propaganda and blah, 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 all this shit. So he was cheering. Woohoo, yeah! He was, they're done, they're done. He was jumping up and down like a championship mat went. And I was looking at all these tanks, and you know, all I knew from the USSR was from movies. You didn't really, in like just a bunch of, I don't know, it was a different time, man. There was no internet. I was a kid. You know, they teach us about James Bond movies, Rocky IV, where they fight the Russian guy. I didn't know shit about the USSR. I didn't know what to think about them. They're the bad guys. And all the video games and all these things, man, just basically what they taught us in the US was just, well, they didn't teach us that there's other ethnicities in the USSR, like Armenians and people, you know, Central Asians and Siberia and Lithuania and Latvia. They basically just taught us the USSR was all Russians. They didn't teach us shit about it, man. It pisses me off. In my school, it was a total blackout of knowledge. And I think it causes a lot of problems that we experience to this day of this Cold War education, propaganda, which worked both ways, obviously. You know, I can just imagine what the schools were like in Armenia during the USSR times. Just, oh man. All right, and I'm rambling on. I'm gonna have to edit a lot of this out. No more filming. Peace.